What's up, guys? Welcome to the Mike Dolce Show. We have a new format that I really hope you like. We're going to keep progressing this channel for you guys. We've listened to your feedback, and we really wanted to make sure the production quality matches the premium content that we strive to always offer you. With that, I'm so proud to have my friend, Mr. Chris Duffin, on today's show. Chris Duffin, known as the mad scientist, quite literally, because that's what he is. What Chris has accomplished in his life is so rare. Most people will never accomplish one of the things Chris has done. And as he tells us in this show, he has plans to do many more things into the future. Now, I don't want to give away all the show notes here for you, but we want to talk about inspiration, motivation, and perspiration. Chris has all of these in spades, from a very humble, traumatic upbringing to now being one of the most widely respected names in fitness is a huge leap for a guy like Chris. And the way he's done it is very telling, while also sharing his engineering mindset and background with what you can do right now to dramatically improve your life. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Again, the time flies. I've left timestamps below this video, as you've probably already seen, to make sure that you can just jump to the topic you want to see, but take the time to listen. I would say take the time to listen to each word that is discussed, because there's so much information and such kernels of knowledge that are dropped in the middle of a sentence that could have a dramatic impact on your own success in fitness, in finance, with your family, and all the things that we talk about here on the channel. I really hope you're gonna enjoy this. I know I absolutely did. Now let's get on to the show. Yo.
Oh, you got me?
What's up, Duffin?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, man. Time flies so fast, doesn't it?
It sure does.
It's crazy. It's fuck, man. Last time was you and Stan in Vegas, Iron Addicts Gym, right? That's where we bumped into each other, and then wound up a couple days later that week going back to my office, my studio, and podcast and air, which was a great time.
Yeah, that must have been, what, 2016, maybe 2017, somewhere in there?
Yeah. Somewhere. Fuck, man, it's crazy how quick that goes. It goes like that.
Yeah.
So how about you? What are you doing? What are you up to?
Oh man, are we rolling right now?
We're rolling. We're live now.
Okay.
I can cut this up. Should any?
Oh,
of
that's
us,
good.
Man,
it's
go ahead.
It's we got a lot going, man. It's Kabuki Strength has really just taken off. So, and I founded a couple other brands kind of built on the things that I believe in, but Kabuki Strength is the big dog in there. That's my focus. About helping people live better, through strength, have it be additive in life. And so we make specialty biomechanically sound stuff. And it's crazy. Like, since I talked to you last, we have become a globally recognized brand. In fact, like in Major League Baseball, maybe 3 players don't use our stuff, or 3 teams. And probably 90% of all NBA, NFL, 600 plus colleges, any of the ones that you can think of. Oh yeah. You got scrolling the Kabuki Education Week. This is badass. This is coming up in a couple weeks. So, basically, list of the best presenters. I mean, Mike, I don't have you on there. We got to get you on next time.
Let's do it.
We didn't do as much as you scroll through the list. We don't do as much on the diet side of things. So it's really a lot of things focused around movement performance, rehabilitation. We've got stuff on birthing, both prep and recovery as it relates to training. I mean, it is just a badass list of presenters. And so it's $99 for a week. We've got 54 of, I challenge you to find a better virtual summit list of speakers ever. So it's pretty freaking badass. And that's rolling. It'll be a week long with live Q&A, so you can ask. And so anyway, I just started talking about that because it's scrolling on the screen there.
Yeah, no. As you were talking, I just wanted to jump in, and we'll get to this. I want to hammer this. Everybody now, I'm sure, is super stoked. We'll get to that down just a little bit. Let's circle back to you for a minute. All right. So
I wrote a book too since then. It's a bestseller. I did that too.
What else? Have you cured cancer yet, though, Chris Duffin?
I squatted 1,000 pounds for reps and deadlifted it for reps. But no cancer, no cancer.
Not yet, not yet. Well, that's close. And were you the first man to deadlift 4 times body weight, or the first man at 220? What was that?
I was the first person to squat 4 times, 4 times body weight. The heaviest. Sorry, there's a lot of lighter guys though. And then deadlift, I didn't keep track of that. So at some point when I quit, that was when I was competing. I quit competing and I just set my goals on. I wanted to be the first person to squat and deadlift 1,000 pounds. And silently to myself, I didn't let the world know I wanted to do both for reps, and that's what I did. So no one else has done that, either done it both or done reps. So that's pretty cool. The deadlift actually still stands as the sumo Guinness World Record. Wow. And so I'm definitely the lightest person I think that's done either of those as well. So I mean, there's like 5-6 other guys that now have deadlifted 1,000 pounds. You got Thor, you got Eddie, you got a few other folks over there, but they're all 380 to 440. Strongman. So
Thor well over 400 pounds. Which is insane.
Yeah, he did. He was Stan was doing his diet. Yeah. I know he was walking at 440, but I believe when he pulled the deadlift, he was actually probably closer to 450, 460, somewhere in there. Just massive.
So clearly by Wilk's score, you have all those dudes beat.
Yeah. Well, my goal was, I don't care about body weight. I'm the only person that's done both. So whatever body weight, but yeah, I was like 280 when I squatted and in the 260s when I did the deadlift.
Man. Now let's take this back. Let's take this back to a young Chris Duffin. Now you have a pretty crazy story. Let's go to the origin story. And I know you talk about this. I know you wrote about it in the book. But let's tell everybody here. Let's give the quick elevator pitch of, well, you think your life is bad or your childhood was a little twisted. Let's hear Chris Duffin's real quick.
Well, let's be clear. I don't tell it to say, this is how bad it is. And there's actually a lot of stories that are pretty bad that I just leave out because they don't relate to the message that I'm trying to get. So my story is a great way to really articulate some things. And it's because it's not how bad, it's really the scope, like how far it went from one direction to the other. But I grew up homeless, like in the wilderness. So we're talking foraging for food, killing animals. We're talking, if I needed to bathe, I'd have to go down to the stream and fill it with the jugs with water and set them out in the rock during the day. Or if we were living somewhere, it was a cabin with no running water, no electricity. Again, to bathe, it's heating up some water on the wood stove and stepping out back in the snow and dumping it over your head. On my Instagram, I tell this story, the shit bucket story, but it's a story about just life in general. But one of those little cabins. It's a little maybe 16 by 16, one room, nothing in it. So in the corner is we've got the sheet hung up, and there's a 5-gallon bucket in the back, and that was my job to go take our shit bucket and go dig a hole and bury it a few times a week. But it was an interesting ride, and went from there. There was a lot of bad stuff. So in that environment that we lived in, there's experiences dealing with a lot of drug running, there's drug abuse, there's alcoholism, there's murderers, there's human trafficking, there's a serial killer, there's some just fucked up shit, honestly. And I went from that to going to school. I was pretty good in high school as far as athletics and academics, ended up getting a full ride scholarship, and things ended up just getting worse at home while I was doing that. So I was working full time still. And then I ended up taking custody of my 3 younger sisters. I raised all of them while I worked on my dual engineering degree, my MBA, and got started with my career. And then that's, I started putting a lot of those lessons in place. I ended up becoming a sought after executive in the manufacturing space. So I would be brought in to come in and turn around a company. So I think when we interviewed last, I don't remember where. I might have still been in that career, honestly, if it was 2015, maybe below, and it might have been. But I would come in and I turned around an aerospace company, got it from failing performance to being the #1 supplier in the world for Boeing in its category, got it prepped for sale and sold. And anyway, I did that type of stuff for like 10 years. And I got to this point. I was like, I'm living what they say is the American dream, and I got this.
I'm going to interject for a second, and you might not know this, but we actually had one level of separation during that time.
I found this out later. Yeah.
Right. You know what's funny is I didn't know this. So I'm staying at Chael Sonnen's house. He's getting ready, I think, for the Anderson Silva fight. And I move in, right, for a few weeks or whatever. And he's got a roommate. And his roommate I've met at the fights before and whatnot. And this is Reese. Reese is awesome. Yep. Everybody loves Reese. Reese is getting ready for a powerlifting competition. Hey, dude, that's awesome. And he is so surly about it, so Eeyore about it, so like, my fucking boss is making me do this powerlifting competition. And like, he enjoyed lifting, he enjoyed training, he enjoyed the whole thing. He just did not want to perform in front of you guys, in front of friends. Of course, Chael, knowing, being Chael, really had to just spin him up and twist him up. How's training going? You ready? You like just kind of the whole thing. Well, and he was always talking about his maniacal genius, like super rad, awesome, fucking pain in the ass, like pushing him to be a better person. But,
that was me.
And that turns out to be you, Chris Duffin. So I didn't realize this until you were on the podcast. My podcast. Reese calls me and he's like, yo, that's awesome. You and Duffin hooked up. I was like, how do you know Duffin? He was like, the fuck, like the whole time for the powerlifting competition, like that, he was my boss at the engineering. I forget what you're building, engines or some sort of,
that was the aerospace. So Reese Reese was going through some big life changes, lost some things. And, I'd been kind of coaching him and helping him. And then I finally just hired him into a career he'd never worked in before, working as a planner in this aerospace company. And that's the story. That's the funny part, Reese Cotton. I was always pushing and trying to get people to be better. Like, that's what I did. That's why I was really successful in that world. Like, I had to bring about like organizational change, and you do that one person at a time. Right. Yeah. And so it was, it's pretty funny. Pretty funny. For a long time, Reese never introduced me. Like, I was great friends with Reese, and he'd never introduced me to Chael till like around that time, because he was always afraid. He's like, I think if Duffin and Chael met, like somehow the world would go awry. They're two crazy people and something bad would just happen. So he like didn't introduce us for like 10 years.
Okay. Okay.
I'm serious. Cause he was like, Chael's a little crazy and Chris is a little crazy. Like, I don't know.
But since that you guys have hooked up, right?
Yeah, we have.
And I know you've kind of, helped him in the peripheral of what he does in his life, which is awesome, sports and fitness and athletics and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we've actually, so I mentioned like all the sports teams. Well, let me get back to finish up that story really fast.
Please. Sorry, brother. Sorry, man.
So yeah, I was working in the corporate world, and I was sitting there at my life, and this is like the first half of my book is really this piece of self-discovery, like discovering your strengths. I talk a lot about, finding your place separate from the things that have happened from you. There's a lot of, every chapter is really ties down to some usable stuff in life. And the second half of the book is this purposeful reinvention of oneself. Yeah. It is specifically deciding like who you want to be in this world. And so I was at this point, like by everybody's standards, I have it all, and I'm like, I'm not happy. And I'm not doing what I want to do. And so I walked away from all of that and some other major life changes at the time. And I founded Kabuki Strength and put everything that I have on the line, like all my retirement. I had sold houses I had, vehicles, like everything, and started from scratch because I'm like, I want to help people live better in this world. And I'm able to do part of that through the leadership roles that I have, but I have this skill, this ability to help people in this physical area. And I've been developing on the side a lot of relationships on the clinical practice side and education there, where my specialty was really becoming biomechanics and under load and being able to help people that, if you have a bad back, you're in constant pain, be able to walk away from that, not only do that, but get back into the gym. And so I developed, you could pull up the advisory board on our website. You'll see these are now a lot of backers for our industry, for our company, but they're the number one, spine biomechanist in the world, one of the best developmental kinesiologists, arguably one of the best orthopedic surgeons, the most well-known physical therapist. The list goes on. Like this is my personal friend network, and there's a lot more than that. And I'm like, I pull all these ideas and things and see what works together, and really out of that became the principles for what Kabuki Strength is. So it's unlike other equipment and education companies out there. We're both. We're not like just one or the other. So we have these foundational principles about what we believe in loading, what we believe in movement, and our products come from that. And so everybody else is out there trying to figure out what sells. And I'm like, I don't care what sells. I'm like, I want to know what's going to make a difference in people's lives. And so we combine both education and equipment to try to get people to have strength be nothing but additive, to be able to get people to recover, to be able to get people stronger. And the lifts and stuff that I've done, the big feats of strength, like that's all to prove that that putting this stuff in place actually works, that you can do phenomenal things. Oh, but we can't list the sports teams, but a couple of those guys, they're head strength coaches for, things like the LA Dodgers and the Yankees, and there's a lot of, I work with with a lot of folks around here, and those are the people putting their name behind what we do. And so that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I want to do that. And that was the purpose of writing my book specifically. So anyone that reads it or listens to it, it's on audio as well. You'll see that it's written for the listener. It's written for how you can put things to place in your life, how to have this, being really cognizant of trying to find what your values are, how you want to live, and then being able to set goals and live a life that's going to have you realize that. And that there's a process around that. And it's something I truly believe in. And all my businesses focus on the physical nature of things. Kabuki Strength is equipment and education. Barefoot Athletics is minimalist shoes and foot mechanics. And obviously I love supplements. So Build Fast Formula is the supplements that I use. But the book addresses those mental, emotional, maybe even spiritual aspects of strength. And to me, those are just as important, or if not more important.
Absolutely. And here we're watching you squat 1,000 pounds for a double.
The final feed, I did it for a triple on the final one. It's pretty cool.
Okay. And what I noticed in here is like you got a belt and wraps, no suit. You have briefs.
That's correct. Yeah.
Which
deadlift was the same way. I used straps on my wrist on the deadlift.
Yeah, which of course is expected. Now you're also barefoot here.
Yep. Which is funny for somebody that owns a shoe company, but I'm like, I don't want to sell you shoes. Like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like great. They've got great feet, great ankles. Like there's a lot to it. Like just using your foot allows it to get stronger. And people want to find this orthotic or special shoe that passively puts your foot in the right place. Yeah. And that's where a lot of, you go to the gym, I got to have special shoes because I lack dorsiflexion. I lack this. What happens when we don't have strength around a joint? The body tries to protect it by restricting the range of motion. So it means you're weak. Yep. And that's the problem. And so, again, like putting a belt on, you talk about, well, if you've got some back pain, well, just, like Home Depot, they have their workers just wear a belt all the time. Well, we know that doesn't really do anything and actually heightens the risk for injury because now it becomes a weakness. Well, we do the same thing. The orthotic industry is completely based on a fallacy. The meta-analysis of all research shows that orthotics only do temporary relieve pain in a 6 to 8 week period of time and actually provide no long-term benefit whatsoever. But if you strengthen and learn how to control the foot and ankle complex, your pains can go away. And then it has a huge impact on the body. So I don't even need to sell you shoes, but if you if you need to wear some because your gym doesn't allow you to go barefoot, which many do, or you got to walk on the pavement, or maybe go in the bathroom where there's, there's times and places,
Sure.
So I help design a minimalist shoe that allows for a great splay and play of the foot. So under load in the gym, you can actually work on developing that, because a lot of shoes are basically just designed wrong. So
what's
anyway,
the name of your shoes?
I'm getting sidetracked. Barefoot, as in bear, BEAR.
Gotcha.
So it's a play off of me growing up in the mountains with the bears. I think it's kind of funny, but it's Barefoot Athletics is the name of the brand. And yeah, it's basically just like a moccasin type shoe, but it looks really good. You can wear it like, heck, I've worn mine with a suit to weddings. Now I'm a little bit eccentric, but it actually looks all right, So
let's see here. So does this look like it?
Nope. So
Barefoot Athletics,
bear, like a BEAR, barefoot.
And then what's the URL? Barefoot Athletics.
Barefoot.store, BEAR, bear. You got the wrong. That's a bear. That's like bare naked. There we go.
There we go. All right. Bam. All right. These look cool out of the gate. These are definitely my style. They look freaking cool.
So here's the thing. The minimalist, don't take this the wrong way. Minimalist shoe market is all the brands are focused on, and trust me, I live in Portland. These are a lot of my friends. I don't say this like negatively, but they're all focused on runners and hippies.
Yep.
And I'm like, there might be some other people that might be interested in having strong, healthy feet. Maybe. Yep. How about we make a shoe that like other people would like? Because you could wear a pair of Vibrams. Sure, functionally it works, but at the end of the day, maybe you want to go home and actually, have some private time with your wife. She's probably not going to do that with somebody that wears Vibrams, honestly. I mean,
yep.
I'm joking, but it's not a joke, because we all know it's a little bit of reality, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I just want to. Here's that, and if they work great in the gym, it actually has the widest toe box. So under load, you have the greatest opportunity for the spread of the toes, which is there's a big issue that comes with constriction of those and how it relates to the foot then rolling, and then the lack of stability, and it's just one thing builds upon another. So we do a lot of education there.
Yep. That's awesome, man.
But if you can go barefoot, just, spend some time barefoot too. So like I said, I don't need to like sell people on it. I'm more concerned with the concept and trying to, here's something for you, because that's what I've been promoting this. Literally, I've been promoting spending time training barefoot or walking barefoot. Yeah. Not like your whole life, but just a little time each day, because it's just like strength training, right? Yep. It's not like you're going to strength train 24 hours a day. I'm just saying, like, spend some time using your foot. It will get stronger, right? And so I've been promoting this for like 5-6 years, all my trainings barefoot, even when I owned the shoe company. And it was like 5 or 6 years of doing this before I finally said, okay, people have been asking me, but what do I wear? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Go find something. I don't know. And finally I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll launch something.
Yeah.
So I'm the worst salesman. I'm the worst salesman, I guess.
What we say here is we don't sell, we share. This is what we got. If it fits you, awesome. If not, you're missing out.
That's my philosophy.
Right.
And so anyway, that's what's been going on with me. That was supposed to be the elevator pitch, right, Mike? So
yeah, well, we're in a high rise. We're in the Chrysler building, or whichever one of these tallest buildings out there. Now, you also have an engineering background. So you have a very eclectic background and lifestyle, and also it seems like I don't want to say you get bored a little bit, but you're always looking for a new summit in many ways. And I wonder, now, I don't know if you know anything about my background. My background has similarities to yours, destitute, extreme poverty, no heat, no running water, no electricity in my home. I lived in my car my senior year of high school, no food, kind of, we had a house, but there was, holes in the roof and it would literally rain straight down.
Oh, yeah.
Family kind of, you know what I mean? So like upbringing, it's at that point, I'm embarrassed and ashamed of my life, and the heat, there's no heat, no electricity, no running water. We'd break into the local community center to shower. So there's, but we were not in the woods. We were kind of in this, suburban, kind of little beach town that we live on right now. And with that, I find that I'm always grinding, no matter how much, perceived success we have. You have some stability. I'm sure I have a little bit of stability now here, but every single day, man, I wake up like the lights are about to get shut off. And I say, I'm like a shark. And I think you might be similar in that I'm always like, eyes never shut. I'm always moving forward. I'm always like eating in a way of
Yeah, I agree. My wife comments on that quite a bit too. But it is part of the, I guess, trauma associated with some of those experiences. The ability, when you're stressed, even just stress out, it causes you to like work harder. Yeah. That's your place of finding comfort. And yeah, I mean, like what I want to do in the world, what I've done so far is just a small, massive subcomponent. Like I'm working towards, I want to change the face of fitness and its integration with clinical care. And I have a big plan to do this. And so I'm building all the pieces of that right now, because it's just a huge burning desire on me to leave this mark and do something good. And I've got a lot of things that drive that, watching, my parents pass away and seeing just nobody was there. Nobody knew who they were. Nobody, like, what impact did they make? And just, being able to show my kids that they can accomplish whatever they want in this world by walking that walk myself. There's never, I get this question a lot because when I did my 1,000-pound squat, so that was a 5-year journey of going, I'm going to chase this. I'm going to be squat and deadlift 1,000 pounds. It took me 5 years to pull it off. And I got done. I said, this is it. I'm done heavy lifting. Everybody's like, no, you'll keep coming back. There'll be another thing and I'm like, no, you guys have no idea how many other big, massive goals I have in my life. Yep. I'm like, I'm 43. It's time for that to, there's no going any, like I call that grand goals because it was a grand. It was 1,000. It was over the top. It was grand. It was crazy. Yep. And there's actually a movie coming about it, I think later this year. But
look at you.
But what do you do over the top of that? Like 1,020, 1,050. It was just too consuming, too much, where I couldn't move those other things. And I've constantly got like so many things I'm trying to move. And it's like, I don't need to lift. Like that is one way that I express this stuff. And people miss that. They think that's what you do. And it's like, no, I'm a driven person that wants to do things. And I was trying to do something there that also demonstrates what I do and inspire people. But that's just one way to express that, right? There's so many different ways. And so, yeah, I've got like the next 10 years like mapped out already, Mike, like of like work in front of me. People are like, hey, can you take this on? I'm like, yeah. I'm behind like 3 years right now. Get in line. But, that piece on you've been in this industry, the gap, like it's so siloed. You work with this person and then they don't know how to communicate with this person and you get hurt. And this person over here doesn't even know what you do in the training. And they just say, oh, well, don't do that. And it's just, there's so many broken things between that and then what is actually people do for training and rehab in so many arenas. Like, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Last week, I spoke with Andy Galpin,
yep.
Joe DeFranco, and Phil DeRue. And we spoke about, strength coaches inside MMA was kind of the theme there. But this was a big part of the conversation was, especially in an MMA camp, you're working with the athlete. You have the strength coach, you have the diet coach, you have the striking coach, the jiu-jitsu coach, the grappling coach, the MMA coach, the chiropractor, the massage therapist, like the wife, the manager, the agent. Man, there's all these individuals in the room and none of them speak to each other. Yeah. There's no communication. And who suffers? Well, the athlete suffers, but then the whole team suffers as a result of. And that, to me, I think I have more of your model. I call it the Microsoft model. The athlete is Bill Gates, if you will. There's a tier of high-level C-suite executives all the way around working unilaterally to build division
with the same language,
Yes.
the same goal, the same philosophy, bringing the different tools. And sometimes to solve the problem, instead of everybody going to the athlete and saying, okay, now go talk to this person and do this, they actually talk to each other as well and troubleshoot and develop a plan and then touch base with the athlete as needed. So that's actually the bigger system that I'm working on creating. So that's why I do the education and the equipment, because the training tools need to match that. Joe DeFranco uses a lot of our stuff too, by the way. So does out of the WWE portion of that stuff.
Of course.
The Rock has like 8 of our bars. Joe has who's the person he's worked with for a really long time? Triple H. So Joe has Triple H with a bunch of our stuff. Steve Austin is reading my book. Actually, Steve Austin and The Rock have read my book, which is so if your listener hasn't read the book, ask yourself, do you are
you better than The Rock?
Are you better than The Rock or Stone Cold? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
So there might be some value in it if those guys like that. So
exactly. Now I'm actually on your page right now. You can see on the screen. I remember when the
go back to that last one. If you watch any of The Rock's Under Armour ads, when you see him squatting or Lindsey Vonn squatting, they're always using that transformer bar.
And that's something that everyone's using. I see it everywhere popping up in a lot of gyms now, right? I see it in a lot of, let me pull it back up, a lot of social media. And give us a little bit of breakdown. We're not going to get too deep onto the equipment.
Yeah.
We're going to go to KabukiStrength.net and check this out. But break down this transformer bar for us.
Yeah. So this is the same kind of concepts with all of our things. They improve what we call biomechanics. They get the joints in the better position. They allow us to have a greater training effect without the negative stresses. And so what this bar does is allows us to move the load in space. And then go, why the hell would I want to do that? Well, if you're ever teaching somebody to squat, a lot of times like, oh man, they've got some butt wink, they're arching up and either don't have their core tight, and you go, hey, let's do a goblet squat. And you grab a kettlebell in front of you and all that stuff cleans up, right? We got great pelvis to rib cage alignment where the core comes in, their back stays tight as they squat. Well, that's because we've actually manipulated the spine. The load still stays over the midfoot, and we've allowed more spinal uprighting behind the bar. But the thing is, you can't load that movement. You can't take a goblet squat and put 200 pounds on it. The shoulder, you can't actually even train the legs effectively with it, because the weak point is your front delts and your biceps.
Yep.
And so the transformer bar allows us to manipulate the load anywhere in space so we can maximize the spinal mechanics. And because the load is actually still staying over that midfoot, so we're actually moving the spine around that. And as you do that, that changes the angle that is happening at the legs and torso, as well as the lower leg. So as a result, you can end up cleaning up somebody's squat. Like the MLB uses this extensively because they have so many people that come in with like 0 training age, and they can have a whole room full of people perfectly squatting and just by adjusting the bar without doing any coaching, because it'll clean up. They'll end up automatically squatting deeper. Their legs will fall in the right spot. Like everything just happens. And so this bar is the only bar in the world where you can actually manipulate spinal mechanics and how the load is affected based on the relationship to where it sits in space to the hip. Like it is a barbell machine. Like it's being able to get on a machine and do all sorts of stuff, but we're still doing things right. Like we're not using a machine. We're actually freed up and managing in space. So you end up squatting deeper, let's think about this. If we move the load forward, we automatically put more strain on the posterior chain of the body. Everybody knows about that. Yep. But if we clean up the mechanics at the same time, you end up squatting deeper with greater form, which gives more development of the anterior chain, which those two working together, what do you call that? Like working together? Oh, athletic. Yeah. We're not pulling out one or the other. We're actually getting more development from both of them and getting them to work together at the same time, reducing the shear load on the spine, improving shoulder mechanics. Like this is what, like I said, there's 3 Major League Baseball teams that don't use it. That'll probably be 0 by the end of the year. Yep. You start looking around, you're going to see most of the the LA. LeBron's got one at his house, at his trainer's place, and they do it in the training center, as well as everybody else in the starting line. Our trap bar, the NBA, when they did, they actually had a contract with Rogue. They weren't supposed to bring in other equipment, but they still had to figure out a way to buy our trap bars and get them into the training center when they did the playoffs, when they did the joint, put everybody together and having just a couple training centers. It's really freaking wicked. So this is, I hate calling it a trap bar because it's really, you can do so many things with the way this bar is built. It's scroll down. There should be like an infographic showing like a bunch of different movements. But see how it's standing up on end like that? You can pop it up. The weights pick up off the ground. So literally with one hand, you can unload 1,000 pounds off this bar.
That's awesome. I mean, that right there is worth the price of admission.
And if you want to develop grip strength, you can pick a 2-inch rolling thunder handle or just a regular 2-inch. You can vary the width based on, we've got stuff for, teenage athletes, a really narrow grip. We've got really wide stuff for our NFL and NBA players. Scroll down a little more and you'll see this, with the bar open the way it is, you can do so many things. Like just think about, you could use the bar for ab rollouts. Oh, you could do seal rows and not, and you can do seal. That's how it unloads, just like that. Yeah. You can do seal rows without getting away the bench. If you do overhead pressing, there's no bar in the way. Hey, even actually doing curls is more efficient because you can actually go get a range around your bar. It's just pretty incredible. There's some stuff with balance that basically no other trap bar does right. I call it playground physics. There's the video showing it's the most versatile bar there is. Being the way that it's balanced, the way you can load it, and the way it's open to do for your fighters, like carry work, lunges, walking lunges, like all these sorts of things that you can't you struggle with a normal bar because the bar's in the way. So it's just, anyway, I'm just passionate. That's why I keep going on and on. Like our stuff is different. There's nothing else out there like it, and it provides a real value. And
your experience, you blend a lot of backgrounds to become a market disruptor and innovate. Or you've been under the bar thousands and thousands of times, under thousands and thousands of tons. So you have the experience from the old school rusty barbell slipping off your back.
Yeah.
But also you have the engineering experience where individuals can walk in the gym like, man, that lift feels off. I don't know why, because they don't understand the mechanics, the biomechanics, where you actually have the bar experience, but you have the education also to blend this together.
Yeah. So it's the under the bar experience, it's the engineering experience, but also consider when I talked about the relationships and the specialization, like I lecture at physical therapy colleges, chiropractic colleges, to elite events that you've got to be a leading doctor in the world to be up on the stage. And I'm up there. That is, I know that sounds kind of braggy, but I'm trying to point out the point, like that is the level of self-education that I have in the physical realm of rehabilitation and how the body works. So it's like those three things together. Yeah. That's pretty hard that's where this stuff comes from. It's just these minor, subtle little changes. And all of a sudden it's a huge difference. All of a sudden you can take somebody with a specialty bench bar and you can have a person that hasn't been able to take a bar to their chest for like 5 years because of pain, be able to have them do reps with 225 to a 3-inch greater range of motion than a normal barbell with zero pain. Just like that, just by putting it in their hands, because of how we can ability to create balance with this thing I call playground physics. If anybody wants to look it up, it's entertaining, the discussion I go through. And then the results on how we actually balance internal versus external rotational bias and how much we leave left for external, and the ability to stack the joints. And all of a sudden it's like just these tiny little things. And all of a sudden it's like a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, another issue here, which let's talk about on the business side a little bit, the manufacturing and distribution. That's a challenge. Now, from what you're doing right now, you're producing these very specialized high-end pieces of equipment. So there's going to be a level of technical expertise in the quality of manufacturing. So,
and unlike most people, These are all manufactured right here. We've got a 40,000 square foot facility right here in Clackamas, Oregon. I hate saying Portland anymore because nobody wants to be associated with Portland.
No,
We're on the outskirts. American made steel, and we source and build it all here, control the quality. It's made some challenges with being able to keep up to the market, with spooling up, especially the way 2020 went.
Yep.
But it's crazy. And the people, everybody here, we've got a gym on site. Like all of our employees, like get into the self-improvement. I'm still that person that kind of pushes people like
changing that, but that's going to be forever.
It just kind of happens in our culture here. And so everybody's always trying to get a little better in some fashion. So our people use our stuff. It's pretty awesome. Like you'll see me repost on my Instagram stories sometimes. And it's like our welders, like, back there with a bunch of stuff, our swing shift welder, she's just such gung ho, always, posting up like, look at my weld quality. It's like, and, but yeah, that's we make everything here and we manage everything. That's the nice thing about the background that I have is the ability to do that in-house and manage that the way that it should be done instead of sourcing it to some company overseas. And I'm just a big proponent of trying to keep things here in America if we can. Obviously, you're not going to do that with everything. There's commodity items and whatnot, but that's what we do.
So you're in the facility, you're walking the floor, you're a part of the process also. Okay. It's not just, you're having a contract manufacturer create it. Nope. You're swinging in there. That's a lot to be said for that from a quality perspective.
It sure takes a whole lot more though, because it's like coming up, I started this from scratch with nothing in my garage, and it's, you're next thing you know, you're trying to bring in, millions of dollars worth of equipment. It's like, puts a lot on the line. Yeah. Let's put that. Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit, from the business side of this. So all that you're doing in the fitness realm and the education side, but now brass tacks on the business side, you're starting this, or you've started this large company, and there's a lot of outlay, financial outlay. There's a lot of capital that needs to go into something such as this. And you're going to be sitting on a lot of inventory. So it's not like, you're just, selling bars, hand over fist, and you're on a net 30 and all of a sudden you're getting cash. Like you're laying out 6-7 figures, as I'm assuming. That's a lot of outlay.
Well, this year's been a real challenge. It's almost been, we've actually had to limit our sales and control our growth has been the bigger struggle. So unfortunately, we're pretty far behind with our customers, and we're the outlay of stuff, because it still doesn't, like, getting the money in doesn't help you with the big purchase. Like these things take years and years to pay off. And unfortunately, investors these days are only interested in tech. And so trying to find somebody that's going to fund that. And on the other side, it's like, if you're a new business, banks don't want to deal with you because you only have a couple years under your belt. And then the other thing, if you're growing more than double your rate every year, every single dime is back in the work in process. So you actually have no working capital to work with. So it's definitely created some major struggles, and we've been working through that as a business, and we're getting enough leg room now, but it's not easy. And it's pretty funny though, because some of the investors we've gone back out to, or we'd reached out to years ago, they're kicking themselves now because we've really grown faster than most tech companies would, like successful tech companies. And so they're kind of kicking themselves for that. But at the same time, I'm glad that we've been able to keep my partner, Rudy Cadleb, I started this business with, and we've got a few, minor stakeholders on our leadership team, but I'm glad we didn't have to go that route, because I want to keep things the way they are. I want to have the great culture, the great environment that we've got here. I don't want somebody coming in and saying, you know what, you should sell that education piece, or you should buy this stuff from China because I can find, that, a little bit cheaper over here. Those influences, I'm losing the essence of what our values are as a business. So I'd rather do the hard work. And so it's been Yeah, it's been a challenge. It's been hard. It's definitely not something that, a lot of people look at business owners and go, oh man, you must have it easy. You must have, and they don't realize how much has to go back there, how much has to happen. So yeah, the first few years of this, like I said, I was pretty successful. I had a job making, over 200,000 a year, secure. I could go from one to the next. I could, I was very comfortable. I had a good living, and I walked away from that to having to sell my homes. I was living in an apartment with my two kids, with another one on the way. I had my credit cards, because I was not paying myself at all for years. So I had, over 100,000 in credit card debt racked up. I had millions of dollars personally guaranteed in loans for the company. So if the company failed, if it didn't fail, one, I've lost everything. All my retirement that I saved over those 20 years of work, I would have lost everything, and then still been like scraping by the entire rest of my life if I went back to my old career, because I'd be paying back all the stuff that I had to personally guarantee. And it's like, you get right to that end and you're like, man, was this the right call? But this is why you have to understand your values and why you're starting a business and why it should be well beyond to make money. And it was to bring some change in the world. And that's the thing, like how passionate I was about that is what helps you keep putting one foot in front of the next, waking up every day, having that, like you said, that shark mentality. What am I attacking? What am I going after? And then, yeah, when you start getting wins, everybody wants to look at it and go, oh, that must be easy. But it never is. It. You're a business owner.
How long was that period of time where, so you go from being homeless, living in the woods, right? So you have nothing, to finally you build your life, you create a life for yourself, you create some stability, you create security, you create safety. You get to the point that you have a real job, an upper middle class, dare I say, job. Life is done for you at that point, Chris. You're married now, you have some kids, and somewhere something inside you screams out and says, this isn't right. This isn't what I meant to do. I meant to do something completely different. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that you left this, you jumped away from this.
I walked away from that. I walked away from a lot. So it was a big reevaluation. I wanted to have passion in all areas of my life. So I walked away from my business, that work environment, which was a huge amount of security. That's the time I decided to quit competitive lifting. I'm like, I don't want to be framed in any manner. I want to do things on my own. I want to express it the way I want. And I made some big, major personal changes as well. I ended up going through a divorce, and that was my call to do that during the time. So, I mean, I threw everything in my life up, and it's all fallen back together in better ways than I could ever imagine. My wife is somebody that I didn't know that the things that you see in movies and read in books, that level of like love is really a thing. And to find that when you're like 40 years old, it's like, oh my God, that's a wake up call. And to be able to, it's just, so I literally walked away from nearly every aspect of my life, except for my children, which are my everything.
So your first wife then was living with you when you had the $200,000 job. Was she still with you when you said, hey, about face, we're going to make a family change right now? You moved into the apartment with your first wife, your kids, and then during the transition period, the relationship came to its natural end. You moved on as a single dad now, and then you found love and loyalty again in life with your new wife.
It was, we were still, so I still had the home, it was in the first year when I was making changes. So I didn't quit so I left the career, started Kabuki Strength, and then over the course of that year made those personal changes. And that had me living in the apartment. And then later I ended up finding those other things. So,
gotcha.
It's
a lot of upheaval, a lot of,
it was, but I had it was picture perfect, but it wasn't real. I didn't have passion for what I'm a very passionate person. I wanted to, like I said, the story with Reese, you can tell I got that piece out of that work environment, by being able to get people to accomplish things that they didn't think possible, to do things. That leadership thing is huge for me, to be able to affect change in people that way. But I wasn't able to be creative. I wasn't able to use the other gifts that I had.
Yeah.
And then in my personal relationship, I didn't want to have a friendship, that was just comfortable and easy, not something that I didn't have passion within. And so, yeah, it was a lot. And then, like I said, everybody, when I walked away from powerlifting, they're like, "Oh, you'll become a nobody. You'll do this." Cause I was a top ranked, I was the number one ranked lifter in the world for like 8 years straight leading into that. And I'm like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And everybody's like, "Well, you're just going to be an Instagram or YouTube lifter." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, pretty much." But I proved myself in that world, and I want to be able to do these other things that I want to do. And I'm like, I don't care whether it's a record or not.
Yeah.
This is for me. This is something I want to prove to myself. And I also want to be able to express the things like, let's think about it. The other piece of it. So every one of my lifting events, I switched to what I call exhibition lifting. So I'm doing them at events, and I paired them with a fundraiser about things. So it was oftentimes raising money for homeless mothers, children that have been victims of sexual abuse or, similar sorts of circumstances. So it was all like things in that nature. I was using those combinations with charity to raise money. And then the feed itself, like the number one thing that Kabuki Strength, our largest priority, is the ability to manage and control spinal mechanics. Yep. Second is the foot. I already talked about the foot. Well, what better way to demonstrate than through the squat and deadlift, the most basic fundamental movements that I can walk the walk. Somebody that's had disc herniation, somebody that had to learn to walk again in prior, in recovery from that, to be able to walk out and be able to demonstrate that the highest level of ability to manage that and be able to do it pain-free.
Yeah.
It was a lot of stuff.
That brings me to the next topic I wanted to discuss with you, was the high-end powerlifting, the strength sport addict, we'll call them. The Ronnie Coleman, we could picture Ronnie, and there's a lot of lifters now, famed lifters, who have suffered mechanical issues in life that have become debilitating to a degree. So you now at 43 years of age, with your storied career, as you look back to, let's say, a 15-year-old, that kind of prepubescent, entering puberty stage young man who wants to just build strength and muscle and get the chicks and all that stuff, dominate the world. But as we look back kind of with our elder coach's mind, is there a suggestion that you would give as far as the scaling, the training, and the mediation of risk along the way? And why I say that is because, I'm a hip replacement candidate now, like lots of us are. Thank God my knees have kept intact, but I'm, chronic, spine, neck issues from years of powerlifting, strength training, but also combat sports. I started wrestling when I was 13, and I used powerlifting as my cross training in the off season, right? It's hard. So now give me your insight.
Yeah, that is what Kabuki Strength does. So we empower people with the tools and the methodology, because it doesn't have to be that way. And I try to walk the walk to show people that it doesn't have to be as well. But this is what we do. This is the same methodology of a 65-year-old grandmother that's in terrible back pain, that's never lifted. We're going to use the same actual fundamental approaches. And the way things were taught in strength training was so long. Just also the philosophy of, pushing through pain and throw everything into it and form it, as long as it's all about effort. Like, there's a lot of things that can happen and that we can manage because there was huge gaps in understanding of how the body worked in the strength training world. It was always sit back, push back with your hips, chest up, like all these cues. And they actually break this relationship between the pelvis and the rib cage. And once we open, then it's actually impossible to create the best level of stabilization. We have to have those in alignment, and then we have to learn how to cue and create this eccentric loading of this abdominal cavity against that outer constriction. And that creates this pressure that supports and around the spine. Like, it doesn't happen from the spinal erection. I'm getting into a lot of technical stuff. I'm not going to dive very far in it, but this is the stuff that we teach people. This is how we get somebody out of back pain and back in the gym. This is how we change somebody's life for the better. And so our equipment actually helps support those methodologies.
Yep.
But this is something I hate seeing, is so many broken athletes coming out of high schools and then getting broken further in college. And then they're trying to recover them in the pros, or they never make it there because it's done wrong.
Yeah.
And that is what I want to change. Like, if we actually, you can have both. You can push things to a high level, is it, very hard, but you can do it with absolutely perfect technique. And you can, if you chase those, you'll find this beautiful place in the center. And yeah, you can't train 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right.
Yeah.
So being able to balance, and that's, again, we use a lot of subjective and objective indicators, and a lot of, principles of science, scientific principles of training, in modulating our training, in a lot of a block periodization fashion, covering, there's a whole science, right? That's what we do as an organization, and we put out the content for free because we're so passionate about it. So if you go to like our Instagram page, the Kabuki virtual coaching, we actually put out content daily there, as well as our YouTube, for free. I've got a staff of 10 people that are recording content and dropping it out there around movement principles, around rehab, around recovery, because that is just how much we believe in this. And so your question is, would I temper that advice? No. What I would do is I would dedicate my life to creating the information so that it doesn't happen again.
Excellent. Now, for that, let's jump into maybe a more controversial topic, if you will, which is nutrition. And I only say that, well, that's where I'm kind of living these days. But at the same time, I've been working professionally since '93. I was 17 years old. I opened my personal training business, for whatever that's worth. I worked at a large, national chain health food store, and I went through their training and management protocols. So I've been kind of, exposed. And why I bring that up is I've been exposed to all the fads prior to Bill Phillips, EAS. And I bring this up because, like, I'm rather opinionated on nutrition and best practices. And I always see the jump off, and I call them the keyword flippers, where they go from zone to paleo to keto to fasting to carnivore to buy my supplement to something else. And there's no trajectory of thought evolution. There is simply the keywords. Now, what is your take right now? I wanted 2 points. The current fads right now, which are the worst, and also the optimal, healthful, performance-based diet, because there is a differentiation there.
Yep. So I'm walking around pretty lean right now. So anybody that goes on my Instagram, you'll see, I've got veins running on my abs, and everybody will go on there. Oh my God, you were a fat power lifter. How'd you do it? You're doing carnivore, right? What's your fasting window? How do you lose the weight? I'm like,
yeah.
I ate less.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I want to gain weight, I eat more. All right. I make sure that I have enough fats, and fats that are good fats to manage the hormones and all the things I need in my body. I have a base level of protein to ensure recovery. And then from there, I modulate my carbohydrates for my goals. It's not complicated. And in fact, go to this Instagram, JVCQU, Jacqueline, with a V instead of an A. I can text it to you too. You can see actually what I eat. So JV,
yep,
CQULNIE, QUELINE.
And this is an Instagram page?
Yeah. Don't think that's the right one. Here, let me text it. So it's all right. I just texted you the name, so I'll keep talking if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah.
But, And it's like, yeah, I might do some intermittent fasting or something here or there, but I'm not going to like, that's no secret. Like, it's like, oh, maybe that just fits good for my life for the time that period of time that I'm not eating breakfast. Maybe I'm just having my casein based shake in the morning. Like, it fits my lifestyle. It's a way for me to actually manage my calories. But at the end of the day, that's all it comes down to is like, you've got to have your greens. You got to have some fruits. You got to be able to have all those micronutrients, all the other things that stuff helps the organs work. That helps. Like you've got to have real food. You need to eat your protein, right? And yeah, you got to have some fats, and carbohydrates are actually massively important for anybody that's an athlete. So if somebody does, like, I'm not going to knock a carnivore if you have an autoimmune disorder and like a real one, and it reduces some inflammation and that like makes your life more livable. Go for it. But that's what 1% of the people that do that diet, right? Yeah. So there's a reason for that diet. Keto becomes like, oh yeah, you lose a lot of weight on keto. Do you realize that right up front, the most weight that you're losing is literally just becoming losing water weight because you're depleting the carb and the glycogen stores in your muscle, and then you both look kind of like crap, like you look flat, and your performance in the gym kind of sucks a little bit. But if it works for you, that's fine too, because it does work. They're all different ways, and people need to they have to understand it's a lifestyle. You need to find a lifestyle that fits your life. I hate the word diet because it becomes this connotation of something that you're doing for a short period of time.
Yep. And, as I'm still having a hard time, is it
Hold on. I'm going to just pull it up and then send it to you.
Perfect. And with that, so then our philosophies are very similar. And we say we take a whole food philosophy, healthful, whole foods eaten in wide variety, fresh, local, in season, minimally processed to the best of your ability to prepare them. You got to cook certain types of fish and meat and things like that, but you got to eat your protein. We say no pills, no powders, no potions primarily. Let's establish a healthful whole food base. We'll run a nutrient analysis. We have the ability to do that here. We can find deficiencies. If we can correct those deficiencies through food intake, then we'll look into supplemental form. If you're in an A-type training phase, we can drop in a little bit of a sport-specific supplement for that short window, right? Because we're peaking. We can throw some stuff in, whatever that might be. But carbohydrates.
Yeah, I was just say I'm a supplement. I have a supplement company, but I'm probably one of the few people to tell you, don't even waste your time. Get diet right. You gotta train right. You gotta do all this stuff. It's like the 2% on top, and our products are literally meant to be a supplement.
Yep.
Like you've got to go do this. So this is my diet. This is what my wife. By the way, she was going to be a master chef this last in 2020. But
buddy, this is it, man.
That's what I eat. That's what I eat. And so people like, oh, you must be like super strict, and your food must taste horrible. It's like, no, you can still season it. You can still like have good food and treats if you want to. You can, but it's like you can walk around in single digit body fat and eat great food.
Yep.
And you don't have to do something like some special super secret diet. It's all about managing the amounts, making sure that you're eating whole foods. There's people hate hearing this. There's no magic to it.
No, buddy. And you are preaching to the choir here. There is no magic to it. It's the small decisions you make every single day. We say, don't be a dickhead, right? You don't need me or Chris Duffin to eat better, to get lean, to build muscle. Dare I say, you don't have to go out and buy the supplements. Just don't be a dickhead, right? If you're getting wasted every night, if you're, ordering McDonald's and Burger King every night, well, you're not going to get lean. You're not going to get strong. You're going to look like shit, feel like shit. And life is going to be pretty shitty, especially that last 10 to 20 years of life is going to be fucking horrendous, right? So we can think like that, and all the data is there. And we talk about best practices. It's not like humans haven't been eating since the dawn of time, right? We do take that approach. There's so much freaking data out there that we can understand best practices of civilizations, of cultures, of individuals outside of the PhDs and the academics. That's great. They're great. They're myopic sometimes also. There's a lot of data that needs to come into this conversation. So for everyone listening, I mean, just go to, Jack Lee's, Chris's wife, JV.
Yeah, JVCQULINE. You can find it via my profile.
Okay.
But she puts out tutorials, so there's a lot of stuff. She'll do full cooking tutorials on there. So really great stuff. And it's amazing food. You don't have to sacrifice your taste for having, to have good food. And so she does that in a very easy manner. And anyway,
now,
and there's absolutely, we get nothing out. Like, she just does this, like, this is a thing that we believe in, and this is what we do. Like, she doesn't have anything to sell you.
And I think it's important to be transparent and share, hey, this is how we eat. Like, she's not fishing for legs. She's not flipping her anabolic cookbook or whatever the hell else that might be. Not that you shouldn't one day, right? But however that is.
Yep.
But teaching, I think it's very important for us to, like, I live a normal life, man. Just a regular blue collar dude, right? I got 2 kids. Like, my family eats because we're a family who's eating. We don't eat because we're worried about.
Oh my God. Please tell me you eat together too. Like, this is a huge thing I miss. Everybody sits down and eats in front of a TV or in their different areas. Like, it is a time for you to come together as a family, and we make sure that everybody does it and everybody sits there till we're all done. And actually we have great conversation and catch up on the day. Like, what happened to that?
I blame the Kardashian family. I mean, and to take it further, I'll go back and blame Survivor. Do you remember when Survivor first came out? It was the first reality-based television program, and that changed the script. You can draw a line from that point forward to where we are now in the de-evolution of society in many ways, or the decadence of society, in my own mind, where you can see now, look at how powerful the Kardashian family is, and look how fake they are. They're so fake. It's known that they're fake, and yet people flock towards them anyway as they aspire to also be fake. They're horrible at relationships. They're horrible parents. They're horrible human beings, for my opinion. You may work with them or not, but what they present into the world is horrible. It's the opposite of family values, and they have hundreds of millions of individual followers who are very impressionable. Now, I'm raising 2 daughters. I got 2 girls in my house.
I got 2 girls and 1 boy.
Bro. So I look around the world and I'm like, man, like, I don't want my kids to be anything like those fools up there. How dare they live those crappy, shitty lives? And I'll rant a little bit. Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce, and he's still heralded as some sort of awesome, like, fucking cool dude. Like, the wrong people are being put on pedestals. People with very low moral integrity are being put on pedestals simply because they can sing a song. They got a nice ass, like they look good under a filter, whatever that will be. So what's going on in society, man? As we look around and just see how crap it is, we can break off into the, not conspiracies, but agendas of we'll say capitalist agendas, where there's money.
It's really interesting where we're going. I mean, I can't comment on a lot of those because I honestly don't even know what I know who those names are, but I don't have any idea what they're doing or what's going on. Like, it's, who I live in my own little bubble,
So do you know who the Kardashians are?
I do. I know who they are, but I don't have any clue. I know that they're famous. I know, but I don't know. I don't know a lot.
At the end of the day, take a moment and pull up some of their Instagram just to see the extent of plastic surgery, the extent of falsified image that is being put out there to the world. It's actually interesting to me, not that I follow it or pay attention to it. I'm a very, simple man when it comes to the things I allow into my world, but there's a peripheral awareness working in the world that we do. A girl comes to us, she wants to look like this person. I said, well, that person's had tons of plastic surgery. That's simply unrealistic. That's not possible.
I'm definitely aware of like that whole environment that's going on. Like, it's people have these crazy perceptions about like what normal is, and that really throws things off. Like, just myself, I'm not great at having a positive impact. People don't realize, like, I've been training since 1988. Wow. You're not gonna, and I'm a top level athlete. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to look like me.
Yeah.
You know, I have used PEDs. Like, you don't squat and deadlift 1,000 pounds without using those. Like, you're not gonna try to sell you something that's not the reality of the world, right?
Yep. You know, if you don't mind jumping into the PED conversation here, there's PEDs are everywhere. You walk into any gym, every gym, half the gym is on some form of PEDs. You walk into any courtroom, you're going to find those attorneys are on some form of PED. Now, the category is going to be a little bit different, but at the same time, in the strength world, fitness world, with regards to PEDs, they are rampant PED use in strength sports. Everybody's on something, especially the influencers, let's say, the bigger numbers. And that's, I'm not mad at that. And I'm not even criticizing that. It's a part of the game, like you say. But how dangerous is it long term? And the unmediated use, again, to use that term, where you have these 25-year-old kids that are shooting, 50 migs of tren a day or 200 migs a week for 6, 8, 12 weeks or more because they're following these Instagram accounts.
It's pretty crazy that people are doing that just for those aesthetic reasons. Like, I didn't until I was 33, and I was an 800 plus pound deadlifter at 198 pounds, and I was competing in an arena that didn't test for them. I mean, obviously, if there's testing, you need to follow what the rules of those, that is. Otherwise, you're not playing fair. But outside of that, it becomes this murky world, and that's where I didn't there's no, people think it's really gray or black or white, but at the same day, there's so many ways of like, well, ephedra's illegal in the US, but it's legal in Canada. When you say, well, Canada must be more liberal. And then you're like, but you can't buy an energy drink with 240 milligrams of caffeine like you can in the US. And then the Yohimbe is okay here, but not there, and not Australia. And then, this tennis star was using a medication to help improve cardiovascular health for 11 years, is like one of the number one. And then it's like, oh, well, now that's not okay, but it was. And I like bicarbonate. Yep. I've used bicarbonate loading is a performance enhancer. You know what that is?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to hear, how do you get past the gastro issues of?
Well, you don't really. So it's a matter of you can use it. It's for, short. So it's great for like rowers. I used it for my Guinness record on like the 405 or number of deadlifts done in a minute, and a Guinness record for number of squats done in a minute with 400 pounds and 500 pounds. Huh. But it messes with the, but they don't test for it, but it is known. And it's obviously not a natural amount to be able to take that, because you're not going to be able to eat like a bunch of bread and do that, but you can't test for it because people eating bread would test. It's like, it goes all over the place. Right. Yep. And so anyway, at the end of the day, you can't say, some people are going to say creatine's, is cheating, and another person's not. So no matter what you do, wherever stance you take, someone is going to be able to put themselves on either side saying, well, you're cheating or you're not. Yeah. And so for me, it came down to, if I'm trying to do something that just nobody has ever done in the world, I'm just going to remove that, because no matter what I do, I'm wrong. And that was my choice. And I have to live with the long-term consequences of it. I don't support it. It's something that is going to have you're going to have to live with the results, both short-term and the rest of your life. You have to know how to mitigate those damages and have the resources to do so, which most people do not have. No. And it's just, I guess I'm just going to leave it at that, Mike. I mean, with that, I made my choices. I have to live with those choices. And it's something that if you walk into, with full knowledge of, you might second guess the choice to do so. So,
two parts to that is, cheating or not, as long as you're competing in an organization that it's not banned, right? Of course, that you follow the rules of wherever you compete, but from an ethical perspective on the planet, no, man. You look at stem cell treatment, right? Stem cell kits is illegal.
Literally everybody in their life uses some sort of performance is like it might be in your shampoos, it might be in your like there is no like.
Do you think I'm drinking this just because I love it, or because I love the work I get from it?
It's all different levels, and it's like, well, where do you draw the line? Because the cultural norms, the society norms, the legal norms, they're always like shifting, and like it's nobody is not affected by it in some manner or another, and people don't realize. I think it's just like it's either this yes or no thing, and it's like no, like it's a continuum.
The white knight, moral quandary means nothing. Nobody can, project their ethics or their opinions onto how I live my life. But the one area that I do focus on, or we focus on here a lot, because we work with a lot of PED users, current PED users, former PED users, like the whole gamut, right? Because our job is to keep people healthy. Dude, I don't care what you're doing. I mean, I do, but tell me what you're doing and let's get you as healthy as possible. Like we got IFBB pros and, NPC competitors and like all these different combat and strength athletes and CEOs and all this other stuff, man. But from the health perspective,
but anybody there needs to be working, never do it without the resource of a doctor and doing regular blood work and knowing like I said, there's a lot to it. You have to have the knowledge and the resources.
Yep.
It is not, you have, like I said, you've got to have that person again, that same team right to be able to work. So
have you had any health issues as a result of that you look and you're like, yeah, that was because, man, I just ran, flew too close to the sun because I had my other goal in mind. I wasn't really focused on what the labs were saying. Did you ever get to that point with your career?
There was areas in my labs that I've had to make lifestyle changes on it's had an effect on those in some areas or in others. And you do work, you do whatever, but that's also why I'm not chasing 1,000-pound squats anymore.
Yeah.
It is a specific choice of doing that and focusing right now on family, health, and my businesses and what I'm trying to do in the world. So it's just a shift in those, but that's what it is. But it's not going to fix anything. Like I said, before ever touching one, I was a 4 times body weight deadlifter.
Yep.
Just at, so just frame of reference, like it's,
it's a good point. And for anyone who does move forward, they got to go through that 10-year grind under the barbell, right? In the gym, eating well, sleeping well, doing all the things.
I was over 20 years in the gym before
you even, and I think that clearly shows at how high you were able to get once you, like Ronnie Coleman, we'll use him again. He was competing in the IFBB drug-free later than nearly everyone else. Once he finally did step in after building that base for 20 years or so, he became the most dominant bodybuilder the earth had ever seen, likely as a result of all those years of maximizing his natural abilities before then finally adding the super physiological elements to then take it to the next
if he only had the Kabuki education on how to actually move, he wouldn't. Like I've lifted more and for longer than he has, and so that's just proof in the pudding. Like if he just had that little piece, he could be living such. I feel so bad for how he's been just hurt so bad by the doctors and surgeons that have worked on him. That it's a sad story.
Do you think he ever comes back, gets out of the chair, off the crutches? Does he ever stand upright on his own again?
It's pretty bad what they've done to him with the knife. That's pretty hard to recover from. He had some bad work done. Man, shouldn't have been done. And it's just,
how does the guy?
There's a certain point of like that type of stuff. It's hard of when you've been jacked up with a knife and screws and all sorts of stuff. Like, what do you do?
How does an athlete at Ronnie's level go to one of these inferior practitioners? I have to wonder. Every elite athlete we come in contact with, they fly around the world to go to the best, right?
That's what I've done. And you'll see, like in the movie, when the grand goals come out, you'll see people flying in. I've got my acupuncturist flying in from Beverly Hills. I've got another person flying in from Boston. I've got like over the course of chasing that, like I created a world where I could do that, but like, that's what I had to do.
And you look at, so Ronnie's a multimillionaire from what I understand. He's got more, hopefully he's got more than enough money. So it shouldn't be a financial issue.
It's more of just the knowledge and awareness of the right people, the right methodology. There's so many, that's what's wrong with our industry.
Yeah, that's too bad. So as you look back at some of Ronnie's old videos, do you just cringe when you look at some of the, I mean, strong as hell, but horrible form in most of his lift, right? Terrible form, which, I mean, I was never Mr. Olympia, my God, but I can look and be like, damn, Ronnie, like, fuck, like it's, you kind of can see a correlation.
Yes. But I would just like to keep it on the positive discussion with Ronnie. Like,
I'm not bashing him, but
I know you're not, but I just I don't want it to come across wrong. I am actually really inspired by that documentary. Just his never ending positivity and like things are going to get like, that is like, there's so many people like, oh, that was depressing. I'm like, man, that guy, his spirit is freaking indomitable. Like you could see why he accomplished what he did in the world. Like that guy's, that's pretty freaking incredible. If you watch that, like watching, like just like, oh, I'm going to, it's going to be better. Like no matter what, like God, the guy's spirit is just something else.
And you say it's a good point. Had Ronnie had access to like a Kabuki Strength, a Kabuki lab,
but it wasn't there. The knowledge wasn't there. I mean, I beat myself up. I have some injuries from early in my career, and I used to go, man, if I'd found the right person. And I'm like, wait, that didn't exist. That wasn't around 15 years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. This information wasn't out there. And so I'm like, that's why we exist. Like, because we've pulled a lot of this together and we're putting it out there. And now we start seeing this stuff, the drumbeat happening. This was just take, for example, like the impact of like breathing and bracing. We hear like coaches talking about this all over the place now. When I posted my first videos on this topic in the strength training world, there's nobody that was talking about it. And then when everybody was talking about just the glutes, I was like, no, it's the glute and adductor relationship and how they balance and like the foot mechanics and like I've been like, and I love seeing now like these things just becoming standard in the industry, but at the same time, people really don't understand it and they're not implementing it correctly yet, which is the unfortunate. We'll get there though.
We'll get there. Where do you see the performance field going 10 years from now? A lot of this stuff wasn't around 10 years ago. 10 years from now, where do you think that the field, not just where you're going to be, but where will the field be? What will we be talking about?
Man, as far as like what's capable out there in the regards of human performance?
Well, what's capable? That's a good one. What is known with regards to proper training? And are there any new innovations? Will tech really start to move us forward, or will it become more of a distraction?
That's a good question. Let's spend some time on that because that bigger question. It's I've got my thoughts, but the tech stuff. I mean, there's a problem sometimes with too much information. And that's where we see a lot of the tech. And we also see it as like, it's just data being dumped and saying, here, go figure it out. We're going to help you so much. And it's just like, sometimes there's just the art of coaching, right? The ability to see and know and be able to make those calls, the interaction, what you see on the face of the client, like there's so many other things. But if we can combine together the problem right now is the people collecting the data and creating the stuff they're not strength training professionals. They don't understand the programming, the science behind all the variables, the stuff that's happening, right? And so if we're able to pull that and then be able to take from tech some really actionable data that we can make decisions on, we have a huge advantage. And we work on that, but there's nothing out there that really pulls that together right now. But I pull my sleep data off my Oura ring. I measure the velocity of my barbell, which is an auto-regulation tool that is really current right now. HRV is a great tool for matching, like if I've got multi-sport where I've got strength training and conditioning and practice, like what overall is happening and when and then how to take breaks. But I can't let some data person go, well, the system says this. Well, we don't know what's the training plan. What is the microcycle that we're in right now? How does it fit in the bigger cycle? How does that fit in the annual cycle? What are the needs? Like, where are we supposed to, like, it's a plan, not just this independent data that's getting told to you right now. And so I think we're going to start seeing more of that being pulled together in a lot more functional manner that can really have a huge impact, because it goes way outside of just what you're doing in the gym too. It's the stresses in your life, your underlying behaviors and psychology, your chemical levels and neurotransmitters, and how that affects those things. Like, there's so much there. And as we tap into some of those other areas, I think it can become very useful. I don't see anybody doing it very well yet. And so, like, we manually import all that into our own database right now that has our training programs, and that we can be able to make and revise this stuff. But, just pulling up your app on a singular thing and it says, take it easy today. Well, why? Does it know that you're planning to take the next 3 days off because you've got, an event this time, or that you're like, this is the phase in your training that you're supposed to be like this? It doesn't know that stuff yet. Yep. Right. And so there's a lot of potential for it to go entirely wrong. And a lot of ways that it could do things that could really, really change, because the data can get misused too. Like I said, I use the barbell speed for auto-regulation. So basically an understanding of where my nervous system is, where my daily max is, and actually what weight I should actually use on the bar today, based on what my training plan says. But if I just go, I'm supposed to be faster, people will do that. I see this in college and college settings a lot. And so you see people like, I'm supposed to go faster on a deadlift, and they're using 225, and they're like deadlifting onto their toes and doing a deadlift, like almost semi snatch, because it games the system. It's faster. Yep. But we actually haven't gotten better at the movement, and we're enforcing poor qualities. We're doing so it's got to all tie together. Because data can be really bad. It can also just mire you in not moving forward in analysis. So it's got to be actionable, and it's got to be tied to what you're doing and what your plan is.
Yeah, it's that. I don't know if you read Andy Galpin's book, Dr. Andy Galpin's book, Unplugged. It touches on that in many ways, data is good, but the more data oftentimes creates an overthinking of many of the issues that we should actually be out. We should be out in the fields, running and jumping, not sitting at a desk thinking about the best way to run and jump.
Exactly. I see this. So I actually use a lot of the stuff I talked on there is actually philosophy from the engineering perspective in managing systems and statistical process control, because there's about 100 years of experience in this, and how data has been used and misused appropriately, and how you actually drive. So I've got definitely viewpoints, because I've seen this stuff long before people in the sporting world are starting to see how this stuff can go wrong or right. Yep. And it's interesting.
So over the last 10 years now, what's been the biggest development in your training over the last 10 years? And then second part is, what is your average training load now? What realm do you train in as a percentage of your true max? Just to get an understanding for everyone watching.
Yeah. Well, let me talk a little bit more about like what most of my training has been over this period of time.
Since you've come off the chasing of the big numbers.
Very different right now. But as far as like data goes, so one of the unique things that we did is, the big thing for me was the velocity-based training. Yep. It's the ability, like, if I'm supposed to go in and go, well, I'm supposed to hit 8 reps today, or 12 reps today in the 85 to 90% of my max day, right? Yep. I don't know where it's at, and I'm going off a projected max, and I go in and it's like, well, that's 820 pounds. And guess what? 820 pounds, even if it's 80% of my deadlift, is freaking heavy. Okay. So I don't know if I should have used 825, 810, 830. And so what we do is actually map what your velocity is as a percentage as it rolls up to your max. Okay. And so you do that in a profiling session. We've got a free download on this. If you just type in Autoregulation Book of Methods in the Google thing, it'll pop up, and you can download this. And it's got an article that touches on this stuff. But what we can do is actually find out what your max is that day, theoretically. Okay. And actually it does, but we're actually more useful in going, what is that range today? What is this 85 to 90% range? What is it actually? And So if I've got it mapped and I call out the actual speed that would equate to 85 to 90%, if I'm under recovered, if I was up late with the kids, or I've been having an argument at work, or whatever my stressors are, the speeds, I'm going to end up using lower weights because I can't get the speed up there. So I'm going to hit my speed target, I'll be a little bit under. And so we always think about that as autoregulation. When should you pull back? Well, what we find is that you actually take up so many advantages of micro opportunities of, let's say you think your squat's 505. Well, it might be 512. It might be, 503. It's going to bounce around from day to day and over the course of the cycle, and it's not going to increase at what you project. It's going up, but in a cyclical fashion. And so if you can capture those little peaks where it's like, man, today I can add 5 pounds, 10 pounds on the bar and still be in the velocity target, which is again going to get me in the strength area that I'm trying to train in, right? I'm going to get the targeted quality that I'm trying to develop. Okay. So I'm not using the tool to lift faster. I'm using the tool to manage actually how much load is going on the bar. So I'm still training for the same target quality as far as strength, endurance, whatever it is. And then you take all those, and then over the course of a 9, 12, 16-week cycle, you end up moving so much far along because there's little micro. And yeah, maybe sometimes you pull back, but it also forces you to be better, because some days you'll find I'm just not trying hard enough. So we kind of call it effort-based training, because man, it feels hard because I'm just not trying, and the numbers tell me. And so I have a choice. Either I don't get to train with the weight that I wanted to today, or I got to try harder. And then you try harder and you realize that's all it was. So that has been really huge in my training, and has allowed me to just suck as much, because the more work that you can do in a shorter period of time, the better. So a lot of my training, the classical powerlifting approach is like lifting heavy, like every couple weeks over the course of a month, or even just once a week. And so it's about packing that tighter. So being able to manage all those little variables, so that I can know when I can and can't. So like the deadlift, it was, I went from the, deadlifting heavy twice a month to deadlifting heavy once a week, to doing a second session, but it was a partial deadlift because I couldn't quite move to the next. And then another, and then finally closer to the floor, and like add another set. And then, people are going to listen to that and go, oh, well, I'm just going to train every day, or train squat 5 days a week. No, it doesn't mean you have to move slowly and adding. So if we look at the science of stuff, if I add over 10% of volume in a week, or whatever period of time, over what your average is over several months. So this is acute versus chronic being average and acute being short term. That's where your potential for injury, about 80% of your injuries come from that. It usually happens about 4 or 5 weeks later. So you're always trying to move the current load up just a little bit, but staying within this 10% line of what your average is, right? And so what that means in application is, if I want to go to twice a week training and I'm only training once a week, I can't jump just straight to twice a week without, say I've got 4 sets of 6 once a week.
Yep. Well,
now I could go 2 sets of 6 2 days a week, and it's the same load. And now I can add maybe an extra few reps. So the second day I'll do another set of like 4 at the end, and then for me, it's a matter of a couple reps here and there, because I've been at it so long, just a small amount. It's like, hey, I've got 3 sets of 3, and then I finish with another double this week. And so it's being able to manage that, but making sure you're not going over too far to reach. So you have to tie it to those other metrics to be able to manage that in that fashion. So pulling all that stuff together has really been huge. Making sure that we're looking at the vectors that are being applied. So what I mean by this is, if I'm squatting, it's an axial load, top to bottom through the body. Yep. Some people get confused, and it's easy if you don't look at that. You go, hey, well, I'm going to improve my work capacity for squatting by running the sled. Yep. And it's like, or by hip thrusting. It's like, no, that's actually a front to back. So that would improve your ability to run or jump, but not necessarily anything related to your squatting ability. So it's understanding that. So like in my deadlift, I needed to develop my upper back, or sorry, the final phases of my squat the last year. I needed to develop my upper back or my back strength as a whole to be able to hold those loads. So you think, oh, a lot of rowing movements. Well, if I pick machines, it's just a singular vector. I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm doing like some bent over rows, which would be a mix vector load. So I've got a little bit of front to back, but I've got a little bit of axial going. So it's going to help it develop my squat. But that's also going to take a toll on what I can do in squatting. Yeah. So as I get closer to the squat, I'm going to be pulling more and more of that out so I can enhance the amount of squatting that I'm doing. And, just really basic fundamental things around developing and retaining qualities and periodization of movement. So like for my squat, I started with lesser specific stuff. So I was doing front squatting. I was doing transformer bar squats with the load really far forward. Yeah. And then as I got closer, starting to get closer and closer to a back squat. So I'm starting, it's a related movement, but less specific. And as I get more specific, because if you train just that one thing year round, you're gonna quit making progress. But so you want to taper these things towards events. If you're thinking a mix of like this is applicable for your athletes in the in sort of the grappling or other stuff world is qualities. You're gonna have strength blocks. You're gonna have hypertrophy blocks. You're gonna have blocks focused on different qualities. Being able to maintain some. So if I've got a strength block and I develop maximal strength, and then I come out of that block and I'm developing some other qualities. Hey, maybe at the end of the workout, like every couple of weeks, you might do a couple heavy doubles so that it's not the focus of your workout, but you're maintaining some of those qualities as you're working into like a hypertrophy zone so that next time you go into a strength, you still got it there. You're not building it. You're just maintaining it while you build whatever the next quality is. Like, hey, I really need to develop my conditioning. Well, you're not going to just let the other stuff fall away. Yep. You don't want to start from ground zero again because you're always just going to be chasing your tail. Next time you go back to conditioning, you're going to be out of shape again because you didn't do any conditioning in the other, but you've got to taper it back a little bit. So just pulling that stuff together has been a lot of how my training looked and being able to put that together to tie it into a specific event, a specific goal, and going just over the top. Is that
how often
what you're looking for? How often do I train?
That was awesome. Yeah. How often are you in the gym training at higher intensities? And then how longer are you working on GPP or other sort of modalities?
Right now or during that phase?
Right now. But then how does what you're doing right now, how does that look, let's say over the next 12 months when you want to ramp it up, but you're not going back to, the triples at 1,000 or more. You're going to be a little more sensible.
So right now I've basically got everything split into three different movements. I've got pressing day, pulling day, or like not deadlifting, pulling, but and then basically leg day. Pretty simple split, 3 days.
Pull legs essentially.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And so whatever day it happens to be, I just hit that in the progression. So usually I'm hitting things about twice a week, which works really well for really hitting the targets. If we look at the research as far as maximizing both the recovery window as well as the frequency of being able to add an additional stimulus and progress it forward. So it averages, I'm averaging 5-6 days a week. So I'm getting through the cycle about twice. I mix in a little bit of conditioning work, either as an extra session or at the beginning or the end. I'm mixing in my core, my arms, all that stuff, like all the time. There's just not a specific day. It's just like whenever I feel. If I feel a little beat up, I might just do a session of like some ab work, some arm work, some shoulder work or something like that isn't even scheduled instead of taking a day off if I don't feel it's, I fully need to take a day off. So it's a lot of by feel in that manner. But that's, for me right now, my goal is to be able to walk into the gym, be able to crush a workout in 45 to 60 minutes to have more time in my day and feel better and reinvigorated from my training. And so those are my goals. I don't have a goal as like, I need to lift such and such weight. And so for me, it's no matter what I do, I could probably walk into the gym most days if I really wanted to and deadlift or squat 800 pounds. I'm an outlier in the fact I've spent so much time there. I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I do a lot of blood flow restriction with my work specifically, so I don't have to take the time putting that much weight on the bar.
Yeah.
So I can get a lot of the benefits that I need in a shorter period of time. And actually I get some of the metabolic training just from my strength training if I'm packing my sessions tight together because of the metabolic effect from the blood flow restriction on your training as well. So I'm trying to get as much response as I can with those tools in a short amount of time so that I can maintain what I've got, feel good. And that's really my goal right now.
And I appreciate you being here. I'm conscious of your time, but if you could just shed a little bit of light, how do you employ blood flow restriction into your training? That I see a lot of noobs running around the gym, really going to hurt themselves. So how does Chris Duffin do it?
Yeah. So that's really problematic because most of the cuffs out there are designed for clinical purposes. So they will fully occlude and you don't want, that's for surgeries. Right. And they are that way because that is what was available. Yep. So to manage that, you actually have to measure your venous blood flow, the return, and you have to do that with a Doppler or something to that effect, and then find what your limb occlusion should be. And so there's a lot of stuff, and you basically need to be certified to do that. I use a band that can't fully occlude. So it can't give you as a good of an effect. It's a pressurized band. We sell it on our site. It's the only one I sell because of this, because the safety around it. And for me, so I put that on, and I just go with a certain pressure that feels good, that gives me a good occlusion. I should use the word occlusion because it isn't occlusion in this. It restricts the blood flow. It can't occlude. The bands are actually labeled with like 2 or 3. And so that would basically be 200 pounds of mercury, 300 pounds of mercury. So you're looking at one that says B. There's a little number down there. And so you'd pump it up. That's a reference range, a starting point. And so if you can't get your training in, it's too hard, use a little less pressure. If you want to get a little more challenging without adding more weight, you could use a little bit more blood pressure. If you start getting any numbness, you're using too much, take it off. And so these bands were great because they take care of that safety concern. So usually I have my band on for about 8 to 20 minutes, and I'm doing a circuit training. So I'll pump up and hit a bunch of different exercises together in about 8 to 20 minutes range, or at least 5 minutes on a minimum, and then I'll release. Get a little time off, and then I will repeat and do the same thing again. So if I do that 3 times, that's essentially 45 minutes. Nice, good training session. So having the right tool makes a big difference because it can be really dangerous. You can cause blood clotting, and that can lead to death. You can cause nerve damage. So I hate seeing people just grab I don't need to buy. I'll just buy these Velcro straps, or I'll just do this. I can do it. And you don't know what it's supposed to feel like, and you don't want to mess with nerves. It's really bad. So having the right tool. So I actually talked about it for years, but I never had a band on our site because of the concerns. And so only recently, this last year, did we add that one, because it takes out that concern. Before that, I have all the clinical stuff. Myself and many of our staff are been trained in the clinical side, and with being able to do all that, which gets a little bit more in depth. So if we're doing rehab or something like that with someone, we may go that direction a lot of times. And that's not actually what we're doing or showing on the website. But unless you're trained, don't worry about it.
Perfect. Now, before I let you go, I want to learn more about what you have coming up as far as the education side, which just sounds amazing. So can you break down a little bit what the Kabuki Education Week is going to turn into?
Yes. So this first event is a virtual event, and we're hoping to build this into a live event going through the years, but it's virtual and live. So when you sign up, you'll get the schedule. So it is running over the course of the week, and you can get on, watch the lecture, and then also do live Q&A with the person. There will be an option for you to be able to for people to purchase just the videos post, but I really encourage people to do the live, because the Q&A with some of these presenters is just, these are phenomenal group of people across a lot of disciplines, and you're not going to find anything like that. And so, and we're just going to keep building on this. And as things open up in the world, we'll be jumping and opening more. So it's the first week of February, and it is $99. I think there's 54 speakers, and these are, I mean, like I said, best of the best. Mike will definitely get you involved as we do more on the nutrition side in the future. Yeah, super excited. And then I said, I want to build this into a big symposium as we go forward. It's just it's great being able to reach out and have so many people that we work with and be able to build something. Just, man, that level of education that we're offering for that price is just insane.
So how does it, so it's $99 for 50 speakers. You said it's going to be spread over a week. So does each speaker get, 20, 30 minutes, an hour at certain time slots?
Yeah. So it's time blocks. Every speaker has about an hour per block, and they'll be doing a presentation for around 45 or 50 minutes, leaving 10, 15, 20 minutes for open Q&A at the end. Yeah. And so all week long, there's going to be, somebody at noon, somebody at 1, somebody at 2. Obviously you won't be able to see all of them, but you'll be able to pick the ones that you want, or see all of them, or again, then download the ones that you don't. But any of them that you actually want to have an open Q&A with, like, man, that is going to be the time as well, for sure. So just absolutely crazy level of speakers. But yeah, that's why it's taken a week to go through. That's 54 speakers. That's 54 hours of education that we're dropping.
Wow, this is insane, man. Such a great idea, and what an amazing list of speakers that are going to be here. So this is going to crush it, my man. Everybody who's listening, who's watching, definitely needs to go to Kabuki Education Week. I'll link it under the video also, so they can jump on over, take a look. I mean, $100 for just one of these speakers to speak for an hour is money well spent. You know that, right? Easily.
Yeah. These speakers independently, if you're going to a live one, I know, some of these people, if I had to pay them to show up, is going to be like $5 or $10 grand. Yeah. You're looking at their individual seminars are going to range from 500 to 1,000 plus to attend these speaker seminars. So it's only our block of them, but it's very focused and usable information for each one. And so, you'll get a full schedule. It's I'm pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll be speaking on some topics as it relates to building your own business, entrepreneurship in the fitness space. So
hell yeah, that's worth the price of admission right there also, my friend.
Yep.
I got to say also, your website looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys have put some time into the web. It's so robust. There's so much information there. It's so well laid out. I mean, just going through the Autoregulation book was awesome. Like I have that tab, and when I get off here with you, I'm going to jump back into that myself actually and take a look. So the site looks great. It's beautiful. It's so easy to navigate. I was on there beforehand. There's so much information. Again, everyone who's here, who's paying attention, definitely needs to jump on over and take a look. And there's all links. So we have KabukiEducationWeek.com. We have KabukiStrength.com. Is that okay? And that's kind of the main hub, right? And then inside there, we can get to the store. We can get the transformer bar. We can get the bands for blood flow restriction. We can get all the different information. But you have such great information with regards to training. Like you have a hub of information there, which is very important. And it's not a sales site. It's excellent with that.
We go education first. Like I said, that's people question me when we started. They're like, why would you put so much, you could make money on this? And I'm like, but I don't want to. Let's just drop this stuff out here for free. So Kabuki_virtual coaching, I believe, on Instagram is the resource, or Kabuki Strength on YouTube, and videos drop daily. We also have a fully indexed site for I think $10 a month that you can roll through. Oh yeah, there's my follow me if you want, Mad Scientist Duffin. You just type in Chris Duffin on any platform. Instagram and LinkedIn are actually the two main ones I interact with people on. LinkedIn sounds funny, but when you think about all the sports teams and colleges and stuff, it makes sense. And the clinical people I deal with. So
yeah, this is great. I actually saw this video the other day, man. I think it was awesome. That is no easy feat right there also, buddy.
I'm just showing people, you see, I'm just have a good time, like sometimes people forget you're supposed to enjoy what you do in the gym.
Yeah.
And that right there is the Shoulder Rock. It's the product I launched the company with. At the time, nobody was doing mace swing, and it is the best balanced and micro loadable mace in the world.
Okay. And man, I remember when you launched that, and there's been a lot of copycats out there, it seems, since this.
Oh yeah. This mace swing is now a thing. And again, people don't realize like what brought about the Renaissance.
Yeah, it was this guy, who it's funny that people don't make those associations. Of course, and those of us behind the scenes, we understand where these original ideas come from all the time, the energy, the work that goes into it. And unfortunately, you don't always get the fanfare, but you're killing it, buddy, man. It's so awesome to see good dudes out there innovating, feeding their families, of course, most important, but spreading that goodwill, that good energy. I'm super stoked to have reconnected with you here. I got like a list of about 40 other, concepts and questions I wanted to ask you, but let's put a pin in this now. I know we're already getting long, so thank you for your time. I'd love to get you back on. And then we've been doing something that we call Battle Tested. We just started, where I get a few top-notch brains.
I saw that, man. And you're, like I said, the last one you had, I know everybody there, and great folks.
So it's, I think, as I get a little, because, I was, struggling a little bit when even now it took me a couple minutes, the audio wasn't right. So we're getting a few things set up here. So it's a much better experience for the viewer, but also for us. And I think as I get a little bit better as a host to kind of direct a little bit of conversation, but I want more of a free flow. So it's like getting, me and you and DeFranco and, maybe like Stan, we get Stan in the room, or Mark Bell or somebody like that. And just really just kind of shoot the shit. I'd love to get there. We'll have a few topics that I'll let you know, like 2 or 3 topics in advance. I'll have one kind of secret topic to throw out there, but everyone takes a different approach to things, all successful at the end of the day. And I think that would be fun. So anyway, I'd love to get you back on. I'm going to get inundated with questions from viewers about what I should have asked you. So I'll save those in a file for you for next time.
All right, man. Looking forward to it. And next time you're out in Portland visiting Chael, come by. I'll show you what we're doing here. You can see it all in live.
Brother, I would absolutely love to. It's funny. We just bought a camper. We're getting that fitted out now, and we're going to disappear for a few months just around North America. And we're coming back to the Northwest. So we'll come up there and would love to. So damn,
you're going to come through. We'll put up the family, man. We got, we'll take care of you. You'll love it.
Brother, I'm pumped up. That gets me super excited, man. All right, Chris, thank you again. Really appreciate you. I'm going to throw links to everything Chris spoke about below this video for everyone watching. Make sure you check out the mad scientist Duffin on Instagram, of course, and have some fun. Chris, once again, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. All right, later.